Welcome. It is Mitch. I am on YouTube. If you've been here before, great. If you've been here before, you haven't clicked the subscribe button yet, please do like the video, leave a comment, interact in some form or fashion, trying to get this thing built up from the ground level. Packers talk again today. Final thoughts before Sunday's matchup against the Colts. I guess on Friday I'll have another video come out, but it's going to be more circulated around some NFC North chatter. Obviously, we'll dive into Packers stuff as well, but this is really the meat and potatoes video for the matchup against Indianapolis on Sunday. Both teams 0-1 entering the home opener for the Packers at Lambeau Field. Let's start with the Colts. They lost week 1 to the Houston Texans. Final score in that one was 29-27. Indianapolis got absolutely eaten alive in the ground game. And I mean Houston's ground game offensively going up against the Colts defense. It was a sight to behold. If you're a Houston Texans fan, if you're a Colts fan, you probably cringed and turned the other way. No team in the NFL gave up more rushing yards in week 1 than the Indianapolis Colts. Joe Mixon had 30 carries. 30 carries for the vet running back, Joe Mixon, for 159 yards. As a team, the Texans had 213 rushing yards. Again, no team yielded more rushing yards than the Indianapolis Colts did to the Houston Texans last Sunday. Houston churning through 213 yards in the ground game. No team had more. And I think it's the easiest thing in the world to sit back, look at that game, and if you're a Packers fan, say, wow, there's the blueprint. Just run the ball. Joe Mixon had 30 carries. Josh Jacobs can have 30 carries. Perfect. We're all set. There's the game plan. Let's go out there Sunday and execute. The Colts were preparing for that week 1 matchup. And while Joe Mixon is a really fine running back, probably didn't top their chart in terms of, when you're talking layers of importance. And again, Joe Mixon's a really good running back. But this is a Houston Texans offense with C.J. Stroud at quarterback, Stephon Diggs at wide receiver, Tank Dell at wide receiver, Nico Collins at wide receiver. It is a loaded offense for the Houston Texans. The Colts had to prepare for all of it. And this isn't just for Indianapolis. For any team that faces Houston this year, this is going to be a pick your poison. I think Houston's offense has that sort of talent and those sort of capabilities that you're not going to be able to just focus in on one guy. Like when you play the Raiders, it's like, hey, if we can slow down Devontae Adams, we feel pretty good about our chances. Jim Harbaugh, first-year head coach with the Chargers. I bring them up as well because they just played the Raiders week 1. And Harbaugh wants to run the ball. And Mike Williams is gone. And Keenan Allen's gone from that wide receiver corps in Los Angeles. And so if you look at the Chargers and you're preparing for them, you're like, man, if we can slow down the running game as good as Justin Herbert is, we feel good about our chances. When you're going up against Houston, it's, well, they got Stephon Diggs now to go along with Nico Collins, to go along with Tank Dell. They got Joe Mixon, brought him in from Cincinnati. You have C.J. Stroud, who exploded onto the scene as a rookie. And Houston is becoming a very popular pick for a lot of people to potentially contend with Kansas City in the AFC this year. And so while Indy got absolutely slashed by Houston's running game, it is going to be pick your poison. Indianapolis isn't going to be the only team that faces the Houston Texans this year and gets gashed in the ground game or vertically in the passing game from the right arm of C.J. Stroud. They probably prioritize, let's try to slow down all these wide receivers, slow down this passing game, and as a result, voila, Joe Mixon gets 30 carries for 159 yards. I think Indianapolis, and I'm going under the assumption that Malik Willis will be the starter on Sunday for Green Bay. Matt LaFleur yesterday being Wednesday, talked to reporters, and he's leaving the door open for Jordan Love. Talking to reporters yesterday when asking if Love still has a chance to play Sunday, LaFleur said, and I quote, "I'd say it's pretty open, but at the same time, he's got to be cleared." And he reiterated the fact that Jordan Love has to, one, be able to protect himself, but two, doesn't need to practice. LaFleur doesn't think Jordan Love needs to practice this week in order to play on Sunday. I am still going under the assumption it will be Malik Willis. I don't think they're going to rush this thing with Jordan Love, especially since it seems like maybe just a 1 to 2 week sort of time frame for number 10. As a result of that, I would expect Indianapolis to stack the box against Green Bay. You know, you can take what happened week 1 with the Colts in two ways. You can see that they gave up the most rushing yards and think, oh my gosh, this is an incredible opportunity for Green Bay. Backup quarterback Malik Willis likely starting. That's, again, how I'm viewing it. That's the prism I'm going through. And you can say, wow, Houston just demolished that defense running the ball. That's perfect for Green Bay. The Colts must not have a good run defense. We can feed Josh Jacobs 30 times. Awesome. We've got everything set in stone. The other side of that coin is when you just give up 30 carries and 159 yards to an opposing team's running back, what do you think you're focusing on the following week? Probably stopping the damn run. I would imagine Indianapolis's practices this week for the defensive side of the ball, the main focus has probably been, we can't do that again. We cannot allow that again. And now they're looking at a Green Bay team that could be having its backup quarterback in, and they're thinking they've got a really good running back in Josh Jacobs. Let's take away that primary option for this offense and what they might lean towards on Sunday, and let's force this backup quarterback to beat us with his arm. That's kind of how I view it. There's no way after 1 week Indianapolis is like, well, our run defense sucks. We're going to get gashed every week. Just expect the same thing from Green Bay. No, they're going to adjust and try to figure things out. And they went up against a very, very dynamic Houston offense. Green Bay could have shades of that offense with Jordan Love under center. With Malik Willis, obviously it changes the entire dynamic. But you can't expect Indianapolis to just roll over and be like after one game, well, that's our run defense. We're just going to stink all year in that department. If I were Indianapolis, force Malik Willis to beat you with his arm and let the chips fall where they may. That's what I would do if I were the Indianapolis Colts defensively, because it'd be idiotic for them to roll out the same blueprint that they did against the Houston Texans for the Green Bay Packers, given the circumstances going on at quarterback for Green Bay. And Green Bay has the weapons on the outside. Like, if you stack the box and you're like, hey, we're going to make Green Bay beat us with the pass, Christian Watson is an incredible vertical threat. We saw what Jaden Reed can do on those jet sweeps and in the passing game. I believe no receiver had more receiving yards in week 1 than Jaden Reed. And that's not to mention the safety blanket you have, the safety valve you have in Romeo Doubs, who's very, very consistent. And then Dontavian Wicks, who had a quiet week 1, you wouldn't expect that to be the norm for him going forward. And that doesn't even mention the tight ends Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. The question is Malik Willis. Green Bay has the weapons on the outside to capitalize. Can Malik Willis get them the ball? Will he succeed? Will he step up to the plate and deliver in a big moment for him if it is Willis under center for Green Bay on Sunday? It is Mitch. I am on YouTube. Appreciate all the support. Please click subscribe. Support the channel as much as you can. Again, I know it sounds like a filler line. It's not. Appreciate all the support as we try to get this channel going. Other side of the ball, Packers-Colts final thoughts. Home opener at Lambeau Sunday at noon. Is that a Fox broadcast? I believe it's a Fox broadcast. Other side of the ball, most obvious statement in the world, but I'm going to say it anyways. Defense has to step up. Has to be better. I am really, really, really hoping the field conditions played a major factor in Green Bay's defense not looking so good in various departments against Philadelphia, primarily in tackling, to put at 1, 2, and 3 potentially on the list. The tackling was sloppy. The execution was sloppy for Green Bay at times. There's a couple of things you can highlight. I mentioned in past videos that were good for the defense. I'm hoping it was the field conditions. Saw Kenny Clark talking about it a couple days ago, and he said he's never played on a field like that. He said there were like chunks of clay coming up from the ground, leaving holes in the field, and he said it was terrible, a terrible field to play on. And that he said something like, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but he said he's played in rain, he's played in snow. He's never played in anything like that. Said the field was not good, and that's for both sides of the ball. But again, when I focus on Green Bay, the one thing that was lacking against Philadelphia was tackling, especially in that second half. But you go back and watch, and there's guys sliding around everywhere, losing their footing beneath them. And I'm hoping some of those struggles Green Bay had can just be chalked up to field conditions, and that we'll see an improved group in that area Sunday against the Colts. And among the few good things last week from the defense was that they didn't let Jalen Hurts beat them with his legs. 13 carries, 33 yards for Jalen Hurts against Green Bay. Why does that matter? You've got another dual threat. You've got another very, very mobile quarterback, second-year starter, former first-round pick out of Florida. Anthony Richardson is the guy for the Indianapolis Colts. And so you go from facing one mobile dual threat to another in Anthony Richardson. And I would say where Anthony Richardson's at in his career and where Jalen Hurts is at in his, Richardson definitely favors the run. He's almost like, I'm not comparing the talent or the skill set necessarily. It's the mindset. You know, when Jalen Hurts, do you remember when he ran all over Green Bay when he was inserted for, I think it was Carson Wentz a few years ago at Lambeau Field? And Jalen Hurts ran all over the Packers, and he was a young quarterback, inexperienced. And oftentimes it's, okay, that first read's not there. I have the ability to just run wild. I'm going to use my legs. Anthony Richardson kind of does that with the Colts. Now, he's in his second season, but he was injured last year. Missed 13 games. He started 4 and then missed the rest of the season. But watching that game back against the Houston Texans, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of growth and development at the quarterback position. Anthony Richardson, a lot of times, likes to wiggle around in the pocket. And if that first read's not there and even the second read's not there, the instincts kick in. He's like, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to run. And he's had a lot of success doing that in college, and so far in the NFL, it's worked out fine for him, again, outside of the injuries that limited him last year. But Anthony Richardson, last week against Houston, actually led the Colts in rushing, 6 carries for 56 yards. And just like the Colts should force Willis to beat them, if you're forcing Anthony Richardson to beat you if you're Green Bay, make sure it's with the arm and not the legs. You don't need another quarterback carving you up in the ground game. Jalen Hurts didn't, but we've seen it in past defenses with Green Bay. I think a lot of people still have nightmares going back to the game in San Francisco years and years back where Colin Kaepernick ran all over Green Bay, and we've seen it time and again with Packers defenses of years past. Let's turn that page, and let's see similar results with Anthony Richardson's legs that we saw with Jalen Hurts against the Packers defense in week 1. Now, Richardson has arm talent, and the dude's got a cannon for an arm. There was a really cool overhead camera view of his touchdown pass last week. It was like a 60-yard bomb, and he had pressure coming towards him, not from the side. The pocket was kind of pushing towards him. He kind of got out to his left, I believe, and the pressure was coming right up in his face, and he just flung a dart 60 yards downfield, in rhythm, in stride, boom. I think it was to Pierce for a touchdown, or it might have been Downs. Either way, it was a frozen rope. He can beat you with his arm. The key for Green Bay is making sure that's how you go down swinging instead of letting him run wild. 6 carries, 56 yards. It's a really, really good average running the ball, especially for a quarterback. You don't want that to be the tail of the tape if you're Green Bay going up against this Colts offense. Another key, again, sounds obvious. I would hope Green Bay learns from its mistakes. Saquon Barkley ran wild all over Green Bay. I saw he was, NFC or NFL Offensive Player of the Week. It was one or the other, and it's like, this feels like a bad dream because we've seen this play out before where one player just goes wild against the Packers defense and collects some NFL honors throughout the week. And it was either NFC or NFL Player of the Week for Saquon Barkley. Don't let Jonathan Taylor do that. Jonathan Taylor was pretty well contained by the Houston defense a week ago, but he's as dynamic as it gets. You remember the trade rumors last year, don't know how valid they were, that Green Bay had interest in trying to acquire Jonathan Taylor before he signed an extension with Indianapolis. He is a really, really, really good running back. I mean, I'd rather the wide receivers for the Colts, and they've got some young talent in that group with Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, Downs, Pierce. They have many options in that offense for Indianapolis. I'd rather have those wide receivers beat you than to look back and say, oh my gosh, Anthony Richardson ran for 70 yards and Jonathan Taylor chewed up 98 yards and a touchdown as well. Make the arm of Richardson beat you instead of that ground game for Indianapolis, and you hope that the tackles, the missed tackles, were like a one-off and a fluke for Green Bay based off what we saw them do against Philadelphia. And so Richardson's the freak athlete, can do it with the arm, can do it with the legs, but he's still unproven because while he's in his second year, I mentioned just 4 games played last year. And if it's Malik Willis for the Packers, this defense for Green Bay, they're going to have to carry a heavy workload on its shoulders, and that's something that we haven't really seen in years past. Not even years past, decades past. When you had Brett Favre, you always felt like you had a chance. Defense can struggle. Defense can stink up the joint on a given week. But with Brett Favre slinging it around, you always felt like the Packers offense could get you over that hump if they needed to. Then you have Aaron Rodgers, and it was the same case. You know, the defense might give up 30-plus points and a ton of yards. You always felt like if you had Aaron Rodgers, you had a chance. You know, going with a backup quarterback potentially here on Sunday, Green Bay's defense needs to step up. Put your stamp on the game. I'm sure Jeff Hafley's not thrilled with how the defense looked in large part last Friday night against Philadelphia. Put your stamp on this game. Tell the offense, we got your back. We're going to make plays here and make life easier for you. Need the defense to step up if you're Green Bay. Final thoughts, then we'll get out. This whole thing has been final thoughts, but kind of a clear, concise wrap-up. Despite the circumstances for Green Bay, this is a very winnable game. It is a very, very winnable game. Colts aren't a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. If the Colts snuck in a wild card spot or were hanging around, with the likes of Jacksonville, Houston, Tennessee, who's ever, top of the crown there in the AFC South, come week 16, 17, 18, I wouldn't be surprised if Indianapolis is in that hunt for a playoff spot or a wild card spot. I think they have a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns, but if things come to fruition for them, I think best case scenario would be a playoff berth for the Colts. So they're not a bad team, not by any stretch, but it's a winnable game for Green Bay, given that you're likely to have your backup quarterback who just got traded to the team a couple weeks ago and is still definitely got the gears turning in his mind learning the playbook. It's a winnable game. Green Bay, 3-point underdogs for a reason. A lot of teams, when you have your backup quarterback in, if you're going up against a really, really good team, even if you're at home, you're looking at probably 7.5-point underdogs. Green Bay's only 3. I think maybe it bumped to 3.5 by some outlets, but it's right there. If you're Green Bay, use Malik Willis's legs to your advantage. And Matt LaFleur's smart. He knows what he's going to do. He knows what he's going to install. There's going to be different packages for Malik Willis compared to what you would see if Jordan Love was under center for the Packers. One thing I would do, because I don't like just throwing out the lines without offering up my own, idea, solution, proposal, I would use play action. I think Indianapolis is going to stack the box. They're going to expect you to lean on the run. They're going to expect you to try to, dictate and control the clock, knowing that you're probably going to have QB2 instead of QB1 in. And so Indianapolis is going to try to force Willis and his arms to beat you. How can you overcome that? How can you react to that if you're Green Bay going up against the Indianapolis defense? Don't shy away from Josh Jacobs. He's still going to get his touches. Emmanuel Wilson will spell him when he can. Don't know about Marshawn Lloyd's status heading into Sunday yet. But don't abandon the run game because you think Indianapolis is going to stack the box. It's not going to work. If Malik Willis comes anywhere close to like 35, 40 pass attempts, Green Bay's losing the game. I mean, Malik Willis is not a quarterback right now at this stage that if he's throwing 35, 40 attempts, I'm assuming Green Bay is playing from behind 2 touchdowns and behind the 8 ball the whole game. So trust the run game, but use that run game to open up the play action. And why that's so valuable is Malik Willis has the legs to extend plays outside of the pocket. Get him some clean vantage points with the play action outside of the pocket. Have some crossers, have some slants, some quick hitters to kind of get his confidence going. Maybe don't take all these shots downfield or these shot plays, even though you have the vertical speed with a Christian Watson and you have the playmaking ability with Jaden Reed. Try to condense things maybe a little bit for Willis, and I think play action will be a key for Green Bay because it'll alleviate some of that pressure that the Indianapolis defense is trying to put right in your face. If you mix in play action and you mix it in a heavy dosage of it and it's successful, that defense is going to have to start retreating for Indianapolis eventually, even though they want to stack the box, force the issue, and try to limit or take away your run game. So I think the play action will be big for Green Bay, and letting the run game set up, not the passing game, but setting up the play action passing game will be crucial for Green Bay. Just a couple days away. Mitch, I am on YouTube. That's Final Thoughts, Packers-Colts. We'll see you next time.